What is up, everybody? Happy Monday, July 11th, 2022. Good to talk to you all on a Monday. We have a lot to get to in the world of golf, and also we're going to talk some NFL on this edition of the Slate. Brendan Glasheen, Geoff Ulrich was not with you folks last week, so for those of you tuning in, good to see you again. Geoff is always available to be a team player and be there for people that choose to escape or have other things going on in their life. Not to say Geoff's got plenty on his plate, but point being is Geoff's reliable. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, this is the Slate. We'll take you up until 10 minutes of 6 Eastern tonight, 5:50, and we'll cover as much ground as possible. The idea here is to get to a look at the Open Championship in Scotland this coming week, and also take a look at a little bit in the NFL world. The NFL futures, plenty available on the DraftKings Sportsbook. That was put out, I think, at the end of last week. A bunch of stuff got posted, like season-long yards, touchdowns, leaders. I mean, everything. Anything you want to think about betting in the NFL, it's there. So we can certainly nibble on that. There was some news about Jimmy Garoppolo this morning and where he might end up. He's like the last shoe to drop. Besides the Deshaun Watson thing, Jimmy Garoppolo is like the next quarterback that has to move before the season starts, you'd think. But Geoff, let's start in the world of golf. Which golfer are you going to back again that you keep saying you won't back?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously big week for golf. I mean, Open Championship. I mean, you mentioned like, what do I have to do? Well, I mean, look, I got to grind these golf lines. We got to wait till they get out Monday morning. Then I got to watch the events. So lots going on here, but no, it's a big week for golf fans. There's actually 2 events going on too, but excuse me.
All good.
Air bubble. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like for me, this week it's just like any week with the golf event. What odds can you get? I'm going back to Patrick Cantlay for the simple fact that I can get nearly double the odds on him as Xander Schauffele this week. Now he's only at plus 2,000 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Patrick Cantlay is. If he was closer to plus 3,000, I'd definitely be telling you to like pull the trigger. If he was in the Cameron Smith range, you know, DraftKings number on Cantlay isn't great. I understand that, but I got him closer to the plus 3,000 range. So I'm going back to him. And I sent out a tweet before the show about why, or at least partial of the reason why. I mean, it's frustrating to back at the US Open. Started out slow there, then actually played really well. But you look at what he's done over the past month and a half, 2 months, and it's pretty reminiscent of what Colin Morikawa did coming into the Open last year. He got himself in contention. He got really close at a couple of events. Didn't quite get there or across the finish line or do anything flashy, but then he came to the Open with really good form and he just put it together. And you look at what Cantlay's done over the last like year and a half. We know he can get that really high-end putter and that high-end game going. He can beat anyone. And I mean, he won twice in the playoffs. He won again, like in Vegas, like the fall series a year and a half ago. So I mean, Cantlay can do it. And I think that like when you're getting him at double the odds of guys like Spieth and Schauffele, you should be very interested. He shot 4 under par on the weekend. It's the exact same score Xander Schauffele shot last week. It's just Schauffele had a few more birdies in the first few rounds. Like it's really, there's nothing between them. There's nothing. I mean, it's really just not much. Schauffele has just had the breaks and been, you know, a little bit sharper over the last couple starts, but Cantlay was in the final group with them at the Travelers. So if I'm getting a better number on Patrick Cantlay this week, I'm going to take it. I think this is actually a really nice setup for him. I think that a slightly easier golf course, I admit I probably shouldn't have backed him at the US Open. I just don't think that's going to be his event ever, really. This is completely different. These are huge fairways. This is short game matters. I mean, Cantlay is one of the best from 30 yards and out. The last 2 seasons, you check his scrambling numbers from 30 yards and out, he's potentially the best. So I think his all-around game shines through a bit more. And I think that, you know, you're seeing his game just grow a little bit in confidence. I think putting together 4 solid rounds last week. It's a very good sign for this week. So I'm going with him as my top play, but you know, there's other players down the board that I got my eye on to.
Yeah. As you admitted, you were on him on the PGA Championship. You were on him at the US Open, and you just can't help yourself. You just early,
but sometimes you're just early on a guy. Right. And the thing is, if Cantlay was the same number as like Spieth and Schauffele this week, I'd probably just say, you know, what? You're right. We should just back Schauffele.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the same number. There's no difference, but you're getting Cantlay at like double the price of Schauffele throughout the industry. it's too good an opportunity not to back him, in my opinion. Like if I'm looking at the top of the board, you're basically fooling yourself to saying Xander Schauffele is twice as good as Patrick Cantlay right now. Is he better than Patrick Cantlay, or has he been? Sure. Could the difference get made up this week because Cantlay is that close? Yes, it could. And you should take the better number on Cantlay. So that's my way of approaching it. And I'll say this: I don't hate Cameron Smith either. And obviously, if we're just talking DraftKings odds, his odds are even better than Cantlay. So if you're just talking DraftKings odds, Cameron Smith might even be the best value of those three we mentioned.
So yeah, the number. So since you put your article out on the DraftKings playbook, the number has shortened on Cantlay to plus 2,000. You did point out one of the trends of the Open. 14 of the last 16 winners at the Open Championship have had a finish of top 9 or better at this event in the previous year, or in a previous year.
In a previous year, yeah.
Not necessarily last year, but again, previous years before winning.
And like with the trend like that, I mean, you got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Yes.
Like Patrick
as you probably should in all trends.
Yeah. Patrick Cantlay is the perfect example. He finished his best finish in the Open. He's played it 4 times, but his best finish is T12. That's still a very good finish. And that was on his first time playing the Open Championship ever in his career. So am I going to disclude Patrick Cantlay because he finished T12 instead of T9? Obviously not. That would be monumentally stupid if you like Patrick Cantlay, and I do this week. So, let the trend be your guide a little bit, but don't let it like dissuade you from betting people just because somebody didn't quite get a T9 or a top 10 or something. So, like I said, Cantlay's played this 4 times. He does have like a top 15. That's more than enough for me to say, okay, he kind of fits that trend anyways. Let's roll with that and see what else we got from him. So
as you pointed out, not a lot of past data to look at when it comes to the course. But based on what you've researched on the course, what kinds of what golfers have the advantage? What strengths?
So, this course is probably going to bring a lot of different people into the event.
Okay.
And it's going to be very wide open. I don't think that the weather's going to be terrible. This course has probably potentially 6 par 4s. The players can literally drive. And I mean, like, get it like really close to the green. That's why I bring up these scrambling numbers. I think scrambling is just going to be massive this week. These greens are huge. And if you're hitting it closer around the green, got a couple par 5s, you got the short par 4s, you're going to be scrambling from like 50 yards and in. And that's why I bring up the scrambling numbers with Cantlay. It's not going to be like the classic US Open kind of thing. It's going to be higher scoring. This event was won at 15 under par in 2015. And we had poor weather that year. They literally had stoppages because of high winds. These players could absolutely pick this course apart. So, you've got to think, I mean, who can get hot enough with the putter? It's not just going to be necessarily about who can hit it further or who can drive all the greens. You've got to be able to scramble a bit. Even if you drive the green, your ball could go in a bunker or it could go down in one of those valleys and you've got to be able to get out of it. So it's going to bring in a lot of different players. I think that scrambling and like I said, those scrambling stats are going to be huge. You can look at par 4 efficiency too, although again, I'm just not even sure. Like it's just the par 4s at St. Andrews can be so different from what the players normally see. I think the scrambling stats are the best thing you can look at. And I go back to 2015 again. Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, both finished top 5 at St. Andrews. That year, they both finished top 5 in scrambling from 30 yards and out on the PGA Tour. So I come back to that one stat. I think that's going to be something that you can kind of look at and delve into a little bit. It doesn't have to be the be all end all. I mean, Mark Leishman almost won that year too, and he was like 130th in that stat. So, but it's just something to take note of, especially for the top players. I think if they're trending well there, then you can look at that. But this is going to be a fun event, but it's going to be a different kind of fun because the weather doesn't look that bad. And the course is probably going to yield a ton of birdies. And I think you could see the winner get to like 20 under par or something. So
why is Adam Scott one of your favorite picks as far as long shots?
Yeah. So Adam Scott's at plus 6,500 on DraftKings. And again, you can shop around. I mean, again, we all have access to different numbers. I got him at a number bigger than this, but even if you're looking on DraftKings right now, I mean, I look at that range and, like Justin Rose is there and you can make a case for Justin Rose. Sung Jae is there. I'm not sure if Sung Jae is hurt. I think he might be hurt or something. And then, you could go down to Joaquin Niemann, who I could definitely see a case being made for. But if I'm going right at 6,500, I'm probably going to take Adam Scott. The ball striking was better. His putting has been really good. And if you look at what he did at the US Open, the only issue with him at the US Open was off the tee. And off the, like, I can't stress enough. The fairways at St. Andrews are like, they're basically as big as like a runway. Like the first tee, the first hole on St. Andrews has like the biggest fairway, like the widest fairway in the world. So whatever Adam Scott's issues off the tee are right now, it's probably not going to matter that much. It's going to matter. You can't be too terrible, obviously, but like he was really good around the greens. He was really good putting, and he was really good with approach at the US Open. He finished T14 there. And I love that. I love all of that. And it's like now he comes to this slightly easier setup off the tee. It's an event where he's done very well at the Open. You look at his Open Championship record, it's terrific. And you're getting him at a very good number. I mean, I would rather bet Scott right now than Brooks. I'd definitely rather bet him Tiger, Seamus Power. Like I said, I'll take him over Rose, although I think Rose is at least in play this week too. But I think Adam Scott is trending well. And, can he win a complete birdie fest? I don't know. That's like one question I guess you kind of got to ask yourself. But I do think there's some good golf in there right now. And I think that the easier setup may actually benefit him this week.
So the good news, as you said, the weather is a non-story, which makes it something we don't really have to talk about.
As of today, it's not a big story. It looks the big news about the weather is that, like I said, it could be kind of a non-issue, which would make this perhaps more of a putting contest and just really wide open. So
Schauffele's been red hot. So is Rory. Anyone else worth a look at the top of the board if someone's looking around?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, if you just want to get a piece of two of the top players and you're like, I don't care about the rest of the field, I want to bet a couple top players. Like I said, I made my case for Cantlay, but like Matthew Fitzpatrick is another player. Like I would not be shocked if Matthew Fitzpatrick won again this week. He sets up terrific for this week. I really can't stress enough. You talk about the long scrambling numbers. He's right up there with Cantlay in terms of how good he is around the greens. Like this guy is lights out. You put him 50 yards and in, he will stick it to like within 5 feet. And then he'll sink his 10 footers too. So I think Fitzpatrick sets up beautifully for this week. T6 last week coming off the win. I've really got this is a very, very confident player right now, man. So I think that I would rather take Schauffele on DraftKings at plus 18, or sorry, I'd rather take Fitzpatrick at plus 1,800 on DraftKings than Schauffele at plus 1,200, even though I know Schauffele is playing great too. And let's not discount what he's doing, but we're just talking about a numbers game here. So, if I'm looking at the top of the board, I really have no qualms about going back to Matthew Fitzpatrick. I think that he is playing extremely good golf right now. And he will probably be there, around at least near the lead by the time we get to Sunday.
Stay tuned throughout the week. The golf guys are here Wednesday. Today's Monday. They're here Wednesday to get you the latest for the Open Championship. I'm sure they'll have the latest there. We'll have a weather update, and I'm sure the numbers will change. So go out and, as Geoff mentioned, and it's kind of it's a lesson to be learned when it comes to the betting stuff too. Just you want to bet numbers too, not just players. And that's kind of what Geoff's talking about in terms of the number being right for Fitzpatrick compared to a top guy like Xander. Why don't we go to the NFL before we get out of here in the next 15 minutes? We'll close with the National Football League. There's a little news, a little bit in the NFL. Tom Pelissero works for the league, NFL Network. He puts out a tweet early this morning. I asked 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo's agent, Don Yee, about Garoppolo's shoulder, the status of trade talks, and the radio host's recent comments, that the Bucs had reached out about acquiring Jimmy G as the heir apparent to Tom Brady. Yee responded, he's progressing well on schedule. We're optimistic about the upcoming season. Over the weekend, a report came out that I asserted I'd spoken to a media member about his future, but the report was false. Pelissero concludes team execs are just starting to come back from vacation. Most training camps open in 2 weeks. The expectation within the league continues to be that Garoppolo is traded somewhere by the end of the month. So we got the Baker Mayfield news last week. Now that the home for Jimmy Garoppolo is uncertain, then we get a report from ESPN. Producer Eamon shared this, that the Seahawks have had discussions about trading for Garoppolo in the division. I don't see it with what's his name? Wow, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Who's the general manager of the John Lynch? John Lynch. Sorry, George. John Lynch of the Niners. But What do we like? Outside of the Deshaun Watson stuff, Jimmy Garoppolo is like the last shoe to drop, Jeff. It feels like for the quarterback.
Yeah, I know. It's like, let's just get this over with. It almost feels like once Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded, like that's when the actual like season will start and stuff like that. We can start focusing on like, player moves and training camp and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that the 49ers need to get this deal done. Like they just, it's like they've done everything but named Trey Lance the starter. And they're riding with Trey Lance this year, and they should. They absolutely should. You don't take a guy that talented and not like, he's got his year of seasoning sitting as a backup and even got to start a couple games. It's really like the best case scenario for San Francisco. But I think that Jimmy Garoppolo does get moved. Where he goes, I have no idea. I think that the 49ers should be absolutely ecstatic to trade him to the Seattle Seahawks. I mean,
okay.
You've seen Jimmy Garoppolo over the past 3 years. What exactly are you fearful of trading him in division? What is the big deal? Like,
I agree. I think. I mean, at the end of the day, we've talked about this. I'm pretty sure because we there's another quarter. I can't remember who it was. Maybe. Who was it? We were having this conversation, and I think we both were in agreement. Just take the best offer. Take the best offer. Stop worrying about getting beat. Maybe it was Watson when the Watson stuff first started, because maybe there was like Tennessee was in the mix or something like that. I think
it was Indy, maybe. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah,
Indy was in on Watson. That's right. Indy was in on him. Of course, that didn't work out. But yeah, like something like that. So with that being said, if I'm going off Pelissero's tweet this morning, his report that the league expectation is he will be traded. San Francisco is still at a very short number to win their division. What are your thoughts on Trey Lance? Because it does seem like with Don Yee's, if Don Yee is saying we're excited about the upcoming season, that to me kind of sounds like he's expecting Jimmy to be somewhere else, which means it's the Trey Lance show in San Francisco.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, even if somehow Garoppolo stays there, I mean, I think it's the Trey Lance show. It's just like I said, like it's almost like they're just trying to give like Jimmy Garoppolo some kind of vet. Maybe they're just trying to like talk him up so they can get rid of him, right? But no, I like the number on San Francisco. I've gone on record on the sweat earlier last week. I mean, I said I think that San Francisco is in a spot in this division. You've got Seattle. They're not going to be very good. You've got Arizona, who I really think is just like ripe for a regression year as well. They're going to be running James Conner. They've got like a disgruntled, what seems like Kyler Murray. Now they're trying to replace DeAndre Hopkins with Marquise Brown. I mean, I like some of the fantasy options of Arizona, but I don't really see them as like a high-end team that I need to worry about. Also don't really like their secondary. And then the Rams coming off the Super Bowl hangover. I mean, the Rams could be good again. I get that, but like Matthew Stafford was dealing with some pretty serious injuries. Cooper Kupp played a lot of football. Like, you could very easily run into some injury issues there with the Rams. We're getting up there a little bit. So I think San Francisco is in a spot to dominate this division. I think they're going to improve way more dynamic quarterback play from Trey Lance. Will he make a few mistakes? Sure. So what? He will make up for it because he can actually like run the ball and throw the ball downfield. So yeah, I think Trey Lance is in a spot to give the 49ers a jolt. I think they'll be just fine with him. They're a complete team. You can go to the conference championship twice with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback. I'm sorry, you're a really complete team and you're and they're very well coached. So I think that's good odds you're getting San Francisco. I think they should be co-favorites with the Rams right now. I really do.
Wow. Okay. So I think it might be, correct me if I'm wrong, but my thought would be, because why haven't they moved him yet is my question then. If they're so confident in Trey Lance.
They haven't been able to move him. The shoulder surgery. He had shoulder surgery. No one's going to take him until he's recovered, right? So yeah, he kind of led the team on. He was like, I might put it off. And then he just had the shoulder surgery in late March. And once that happened, like the trade was off the table. I mean, San Francisco even admitted like they can't trade him. So why hasn't it happened yet? I think you kind of nailed it too. Like the GMs are just getting back. Garoppolo just got back on the field like 3 weeks ago. I think everyone's just it's just like they need to do their due diligence. And I think there are teams out there. The Seahawks, I think the Browns will probably be interested. There's probably even a couple more teams who are just thinking about it. Maybe Houston, right? So yeah, I do think Garoppolo will get moved. And I think you'll probably see a deal similar to Baker happen.
Houston makes sense. Similar to Baker. Yeah. So that implies they're not going to get much. You're going to get like a conditional fit.
Oh, and they'll be, and what I meant by that, they're going to be taking salary. Like they're going to be paying.
True.
That's the main thing where I think it'll be very similar to the Baker Mayfield trade.
True. So do you think that number indicates that Trey Lance is the starting quarterback plus 150?
Yeah, I do. Well, I mean, look, it's been coming down. And here's the thing. I think that the market has slowly been sort of factoring in Trey Lance. And I think at the beginning, it was like, oh, well, Trey Lance is going to be the quarterback, that's, oh no, a rookie quarterback. No one's ever done anything with like a second-year quarterback, even though we just saw Joe Burrow go in his second year to the Super Bowl. And I know Joe Burrow had a lot of experience, but like, you also have to factor in how good a team San Francisco is. Like San Francisco is a better team at the start of this year than people thought the Bengals were at the start of 2021, right?
Use Mahomes as the ceiling, right? You sit behind Alex Smith, you plug in a highly talented quarterback.
So I think that the market has finally slowly been digesting this Trey Lance news and realizing like, oh, okay, well, we can't have the 49ers as like big underdogs because like Trey Lance he's a first round pick. He's not like a third round pick coming off the street or something. Like they're going with a high ranked guy. And I think it's just been slowly the market is digesting this and looking at the odds, and it's been coming down to where it's getting closer to even. It's not quite there, but so yeah, I think that's what's going on with the San Francisco odds. Also, Deebo Samuel, earlier in the year was like, going to get traded, and now it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So, that's another factor, but I think it's mainly just around the digesting of the quarterback news. And you've looked at, that's another thing I've gone on record as saying, if you want a long shot bet, I think I would look at Trey Lance as MVP. Like,
you are high on this guy. I haven't heard this from you.
It's the potential, right? Like when you're betting things like 50 to 1 on outrights or 50 to 1 on whether it's a golf outright bet, whether it's a Super Bowl outright bet, you need to consider what the ceiling is for these people. Jonathan Taylor's not winning the MVP at 50 to 1 because he's a running back. He's just not. Tua Tagovailoa just isn't good enough to win the MVP in my award, and he's 50 to 1. Yeah. Deshaun Watson's probably not going to play. Who else do we got down here? Kirk Cousins? I mean,
maybe with the new offensive coach.
Maybe I could make a case for Kirk Cousins. But do you want to back Kirk Cousins, or do you want to back a guy in Trey Lance who averaged 12 rush attempts in his starts last year? If he's even an above average passer and he rushes the ball 12 times, his stats are going to be some of the best we've ever seen. So yeah, he can absolutely. I think his ceiling is he could get in the MVP race. I really do. And also to put that on, we're talking about all these players. He's on the best team. If you're going to win the MVP, as we've seen from Aaron Rodgers, you need to be on a division winning team. Trey Lance is probably on a division winning team. I just made that argument. So yeah, I think that if you're looking for a long shot bet right now, that's where I would go. And I even include like the Super Bowl futures in that. I'm not really sure if there's a team I necessarily want to get behind at like, bigger than plus 4,000 right now. We look down there, the Vikings are there, the Patriots. I don't know. Maybe you could get behind one of those teams, but I'm just not super big on it. I'd rather back Trey Lance in the MVP market than take a shot there. So yeah, I am high on him, but like you've got to make a stand on talent.
Yeah.
And like you either get in early on these guys and you're in early with the odds and you're in early in fantasy, or you're just buying into the FOMO and, Trey Lance will be at 10 to 1 and you'd be like, wow, I just wish I'd listened to Geoff. Or everyone in your fantasy league is going to be ruining your season because they drafted Trey Lance. So you either buy in hard or you just say, you know what, I'll let everybody else do it and I'll just forget about this guy. I'm of the opinion with how good San Francisco as a team could be, you buy in hard on Trey Lance.
As a play caller in Kyle Shanahan, perhaps they could unlock another layer or two to this offense too. So don't just take what you saw in January at face value. Like they were using Deebo in a different way because of the quarterback that they had under center. And look, give Garoppolo credit. While he might not be, he does just enough in those big games to keep you afloat. But he also can screw it up too, as we saw.
Oh, I mean, he screwed up the conference championship. I mean, it was terrible last drive. They had a drive to go to the Super Bowl and he, fumbled at his own 20. So here's okay. And people will want to go back to Trey Lance's starts from last year and like pick them apart. But
really quick. Is it you or Reed who hates Kirk Cousins?
It's me.
You do. Okay. Just making sure.
I don't hate him. I mean, again, like, I would almost consider him at that number. Like, but again, just going back to Trey Lance's 2 starts last year, he went 1-1. They beat Houston like pretty handily, but again, I mean, he had 16 rushes for 89 yards against Arizona in week 5. And it was week 5 and he didn't have any touchdown passes, but then his week against Houston put up 250 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Like, I'm telling you, if Trey Lance averages like 250 yards a game and like 2 touchdowns a game, he is going to have some fantastic looking numbers because those rushing stats could be absolutely through the roof. So it's just something to consider. I just look at all the long shot odds that are available to us on DraftKings, and I'm including Super Bowl futures. And I'm telling you, like, there's nothing that I'd rather bet on than 50-1 Trey Lance MVP.
I am so happy we talked about this because there was another angle that is actionable, and Jeff's on it. You know, so, and you know what? You make a good point. Last thought here. In my opinion, I wouldn't go to, I think that those odds to win the division aren't good enough. Like I wouldn't, because I respect the Rams too much. I respect McVay
and I
too
mean,
much.
look, San Francisco is plus 190 to win it like a month and a half ago. So, I mean, the odds have been like
they have. That number though, I'm a little surprised about I think a lot of folks will nibble on the Rams at plus 125. Like, don't you think the Rams reigning champs that they should be at maybe a minus number? I'm a little surprised.
I mean, like, let's not forget. I mean, there's not much between these two teams. I mean, San Francisco beat them twice in the regular season last year. The 49ers were 1 scoring drive away from beating the Rams in the conference championship. Like, you know, that's why I say I actually think the odds should be even. Because
I'm taking the bait. I'm taking the bait on the unknown of the quarterback. I'm fearful of the.
And that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I mean, you can take that stance. I don't think that. I think that, again, the reason that the 49ers even being discounted at all, and the discount isn't as big today as it was like a week ago or
right.
a month ago, is that people are taking that stance on Trey Lance. So either that's your stance and you just say, I don't want San Francisco this year. I'm not buying into this idiot Jeff is saying, or you buy it hard and you take Trey Lance futures and you take 49ers futures. And that's the stance I'm taking. So
fair enough. We have a long way to go, but not really. Football season, as we talked about, that Pelissero report, GMs are coming back from vacay and training camp.
Oh, yeah. Hey, once the Jimmy G trade gets gone, it's football season. You know, that's like I said, that's going to mark the official start of football for me. Jimmy Garoppolo getting out of town. Then we can just talk about Trey Lance. And by the way, once Jimmy Garoppolo does get traded, if you are interested in that Trey Lance number, I bet you it won't be there. I'll bet you it'll go down.
That's what I want to know now. Is when he
down real fast.
That's what I'm. So you think the number will be closer to even with the Rams once Garoppolo's traded?
Well, it's not so much the division odds. It's Trey Lance.
The MVP.
Odds. Yeah, the MVP odds. I think you'll see that get down to like 35 because people will start to realize, the talking heads will be like, okay, well, now I can talk about Trey Lance. It's like, we can talk about him right now. Just like people are for some reason scared. It's like they want to be on record talking about Trey Lance because Jimmy Garoppolo's there, and then they could look stupid. Oh no, you might look bad or something. So
love it. Jeff's all in on Trey Lance. You've been kind of like that since they drafted him too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit wait and see. You know, we wanted to see how he's going to be used out there, but I see a player who I think he has all the tools. I really do. I think that he can throw downfield just fine. It's just, you know, he's got to get some. He's played 3 football games in like the last.
It's true.
Like 2 years. So, you know, let's get him a full preseason. Let's get going here. I mean, he's going to be, the main thing is he's going to be on a really good team. That's just a huge part of success as a rookie or a second-year quarterback.
Okay, very good. One last thing I'll say, though. Jimmy Garoppolo's teammates like him a lot, even though he's hurt a lot. They like him a lot. So morale, that could be a thing. I'm just saying, Jeff.
Julian Edelman doesn't like him, and neither does, who is it? Martellus Bennett.
This is true.
That story?
And yes, I did. I was on Martellus Bennett's podcast. That's right. They were saying words that we can't say on this.
No, we definitely can't say.
Yeah. But yeah, it's true. I mean, hey, if he's that good and they win right away, people will forget about that stuff. That's what it comes down to in that league. We need to go. I'll be back tomorrow for some baseball talk on the slate. I'll be with Gary. I think it's Gary and Lamarca. Is that who's on Tuesdays now? Gary and Lamarca, Meiselman.
No idea.
Some combination.
Meiselman usually does Tuesdays.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Good stuff. Talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Golf bets on Wednesday. See you guys.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching the slate. The Sweat is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find it right here where you're watching. Twitch, DraftKings YouTube, DraftKings Twitch. See you later.